This thoughtful book explores the profound human need for genuine connection and understanding. David Brooks guides readers through the art of truly seeing others, not just noticing their surface traits, but appreciating their inner stories, vulnerabilities, and complexities. He reveals how deep listening, empathy, and presence can transform relationships, helping us become more compassionate and authentic in a world often distracted by superficiality. The book blends personal stories, cultural observations, and practical wisdom to invite readers into richer, more meaningful encounters with others and themselves. About the author, David Brooks. David Brooks is a well-known American author, commentator, and columnist for the New York Times. He is recognized for his insightful reflections on culture, politics, and human nature. Brooks often combines thoughtful analysis with personal narrative, exploring the moral and emotional dimensions of modern life. With a background in sociology and years of experience as a writer and public intellectual, he brings a nuanced perspective to questions about character, connection, and community. His work encourages readers to slow down and engage deeply with the world around them. Once upon a time, in a world filled with hurried greetings and quick glances, there was a deep longing to truly see one another. People often passed by each other like shadows, caught up in their own thoughts, rushing toward destinations unseen. Though surrounded by others, many felt unseen, unheard, and alone. Amid this quiet loneliness, a gentle invitation whispered, an invitation to slow down and look deeper. There was a person, much like many others, who felt this ache. They noticed how conversations skimmed the surface, how social media painted glossy pictures that hid real struggles, and how the noise of everyday life made it hard to connect. They yearned for something richer, something real, a way to truly know others and to be known themselves. One day they met a wise voice that spoke softly about the art of seeing. It said, "To know a person is to move beyond what is obvious. It is to listen not just with your ears but with your heart. It is to witness the quiet stories beneath their smiles and silences." This voice shared that knowing someone deeply was like entering a sacred space, where vulnerability is met with kindness and judgments fall away. This person began to learn that every individual carries within them a tapestry of joys and sorrows, hopes and fears. These layers are often hidden behind everyday appearances. But if one pays attention, if one is patient and present, those layers begin to reveal themselves one story at a time. The journey to know someone deeply starts with stillness. In a world so full of distractions, simply being present with another person becomes an act of love. It requires slowing down, quieting the mind, and opening the heart. The person practicing this art discovered how transformative it was to listen without interrupting, without rushing to fix or judge. They began to understand that every person's story is unique, shaped by experiences both gentle and harsh. To truly know someone means to honor their journey, to hold space for their truths, even when they differ from one's own. It is about empathy, the brave willingness to step into another's shoes, even for a moment, and feel what they feel. As this person practiced deeper seeing, they noticed something beautiful happening. Walls that once kept them apart started to crumble. Trust blossomed. Friendships grew richer. Conflicts softened. When people felt truly seen, they began to show up more fully, offering parts of themselves they had kept, hidden for fear of rejection. Yet knowing others was only part of the journey. The voice reminded the person gently, to be deeply known, you must first know yourself. This was a new challenge. It meant turning the gaze inward, facing one's own shadows and light. It meant embracing imperfections, fears, and hopes alike. Self-knowledge became a mirror that reflected back not just strengths, but vulnerabilities. It was not always comfortable, but it was necessary. For when you understand your own story, your own fears and desires, you can invite others to know you without fear. The person realized that deep relationships, those built on true knowing, are rare treasures. They require courage, patience, and humility. But the rewards are profound. Connection that nourishes the soul, healing that mends old wounds, and love that transforms. As night fell and the world outside quieted, the person felt a gentle peace growing inside. They knew that every encounter held the possibility of being seen and seeing, of sharing stories and finding meaning. And in this knowing, life became not just a series of moments, but a woven tapestry of connection. As the days went by, the person began to notice the delicate dance of connection in their daily life. They saw how often people wore masks, not the kind you hold in your hand, but invisible ones made of fears, expectations, and old wounds. These masks hid the true selves beneath, making it hard to reach the heart of another. But the voice they had come to trust spoke again. When you look beyond the mask, you meet the person beneath, the one longing for acceptance and belonging. To know someone deeply, you must learn to see past appearances and surface behavior. With curiosity, the person began to practice this deeper seeing. They learned that sometimes silence spoke louder than words. A quiet glance, a small hesitation, or a trembling voice could reveal what the heart struggled to say. It wasn't about solving problems or offering advice, but about witnessing and holding space. One afternoon, the person met someone who seemed closed off, guarded by layers of pain. The person wanted to help, but remembered the gentle lesson: sometimes presence alone is the greatest gift. So they simply sat together in silence, offering calm and acceptance without pressure. Over time, that silence blossomed into trust. The guarded person began to share stories once buried deep inside, stories of loss, hope, and resilience. The listener felt the weight of these stories, not with pity, but with respect and compassion. This experience taught the person that knowing someone is an act of vulnerability for both. When you open your heart to another's truth, you risk pain and rejection, but you also invite healing and closeness. The voice reminded them, to truly see another, you must also hold your own heart gently. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So the person began to care for themselves with kindness, listening to their own feelings, honoring their own needs, and forgiving their own mistakes. They understood that true connection begins with love for oneself. Without it, the search for others' approval or validation could never satisfy the deeper hunger for belonging. The person also noticed that culture and society often encouraged superficial connections, likes on screens, fleeting conversations, and quick judgments. But these were no substitute for the slow, patient work of knowing and being known. They learned that relationships required time and presence, and that rushing or forcing closeness only creates distance. Trust grows in the quiet moments, the shared vulnerabilities, and the simple acts of kindness. As the person practiced this, they began to feel more alive and connected, not just to others, but to themselves and the world. They saw that knowing deeply is a path to wisdom, healing, and love. One evening, as the stars began to twinkle, they realized that every person they met carried a sacred story, and each story deserved to be heard, honored, and held with tenderness. With this realization, the person's heart expanded. They were no longer alone on their journey, but part of a vast web of shared humanity. As the person continued their journey of seeing and being seen, they discovered that knowing someone deeply often means embracing complexity. People are not simple books to be quickly read, but rich, mysterious stories unfolding over time. Sometimes the pages are joyful and clear. Other times they are tangled with confusion and pain. The person came to understand that to know another is to accept them fully. The light and the shadow, the strengths and the struggles. It's easy to love what is bright and beautiful, but it takes courage to hold the broken parts without turning away. This acceptance does not mean approval of harmful actions, but it means seeing the person behind the actions with compassion. One day the person found themselves caught in a disagreement with a close friend. Old wounds surfaced and harsh words almost spilled out. But instead of reacting, the person paused and remembered the lessons of deep seeing. They chose to listen not just to the friend's words, but to the feelings beneath them. In that moment of patience, a new understanding blossomed. The friend's anger was a shield for hurt and fear. Recognizing this softened the person's heart. They responded with kindness rather than judgment. The conflict didn't vanish overnight, but the space for healing opened. The person realized that knowing others deeply sometimes means holding paradoxes, love and frustration, closeness and distance, joy and sorrow. These opposites coexist in relationships, and embracing them allows connection to grow stronger and more real. The journey also led the person to reflect on the stories we tell ourselves about others and about ourselves. These stories shape how we see the world and can sometimes create invisible walls between people. But when we become aware of these stories, we gain the power to question them, to see beyond assumptions and biases. The voice reminded the person gently, knowing is not about changing others to fit your expectations. It is about meeting them as they are, in their full humanity. This wisdom helped the person to soften their judgments and approach relationships with humility and grace. In moments of quiet reflection, the person also recognized how deeply they longed to be known, not just for the parts that shine, but for the parts kept hidden in shadow. This longing connected them to everyone else, weaving an invisible thread of shared vulnerability. They understood that to be known is to be accepted, and to accept oneself is the first step to letting others in. It is an act of bravery and tenderness, a gift we give ourselves and each other. As the days flowed on, the person embraced this dance of connection, the giving and receiving of presence, the balance of speaking and listening, the unfolding of trust over time. They saw that knowing and being known is a sacred journey without a final destination, always unfolding, always deepening. And in that journey, the person found a quiet joy, a feeling of belonging that did not depend on perfection or agreement, but on the simple truth of shared humanity. As the journey continued, the person discovered that knowing deeply is not a skill to be mastered, but a practice to be lived. It unfolds slowly, like the gentle blooming of a flower, unfolding petal by petal with patience and care. They learned that presence, the simple act of truly being there, is the foundation of deep connection. It means putting aside distractions, silencing the noise of judgment, and opening the heart with curiosity and kindness. Presence allows people to feel safe, seen, and valued. The person saw how vulnerability is the bridge that connects souls. Sharing fears, dreams, and imperfections takes courage, but it is also the path to authentic intimacy. When people dare to reveal their true selves, walls dissolve and love grows stronger. They realize that even the smallest moments can hold great significance: a lingering look, a soft touch, a word spoken with honesty. These moments weave together to form the fabric of relationship, rich and enduring. The person also came to appreciate the power of forgiveness. In every relationship, misunderstandings and hurts arise. Forgiveness is the gentle balm that heals wounds, frees the heart, and renews trust. It is not forgetting or excusing pain, but choosing love over resentment. As their heart opened wider, the person noticed a ripple effect. When they truly saw others, those others began to see themselves more clearly. The act of being deeply known sparked transformation and healing beyond what words could explain. Finally, the person understood that to know a person is also to honor their journey, no matter how different it may be from one's own. Each life is a unique story, shaped by moments of joy, struggle, hope, and loss. To witness another's story with respect is a sacred gift. And so, as the night wrapped the world in quiet, the person rested in a peaceful knowing that life is richest when lived in connection, presence, and love. That to know and be known is one of the deepest joys a human heart can hold. With that gentle truth nestled in their soul, the person closed their eyes and breathed, deeply grateful for the journey, ready for the next meeting, and open to all the stories yet to be shared. The end. Thank you for joining us on this gentle journey into how to know a person. If this story touched your heart or inspired you to see others and yourself a little more deeply, please like, subscribe, and share the love.